Hey everybody, it's Connor from the Steel Lodge, and we're looking at the biggest game release of this year, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, running on the RTX 4090, and I have the Asus TUF OC version. Now we're looking at the campaign version because the campaign came out a bit early. Multiplayer will come out pretty shortly here too. The campaign definitely is more visually demanding than the multiplayer, which makes sense because for multiplayer you would want higher frame rates and performance versus the campaign where you're just playing by yourself and you can turn all the graphic settings up. Now when it comes to graphic settings, I am running the game completely maxed out here at 4K and with DLSS set to quality mode. I also play this a bit without DLSS at all, and maybe I'll include some of that footage at the end. The performance there was still very good. But with everything maxed out and running with DLSS, at quality mode we get really good performance, usually sticking around the 150 FPS range or going above or below there. I think the lowest reading I saw overall was around 88 FPS, and that was only there for a few seconds in a certain area, and definitely when it comes to the different levels and the areas in the levels, the performance there can differ between them. Now one thing to keep in mind about the graphics and performance of this title is that this one doesn't have ray tracing as it stands currently, which is a little bit strange to me because I believe Black Ops had, 2020's Black Ops that is, I believe that had ray tracing in it, and I also believe 2019's Modern Warfare had ray tracing in it as well. Now I wouldn't really use those settings in the multiplayer at all, but for the campaign it can be nice to enable those. But from what I did see from Digital Foundry and stuff, the ray tracing in those games did not make the biggest visual difference, so maybe they didn't want to bring that over right now, but in the future hopefully it'll get an update like some other games, such as a Plague Tale Requiem. Now the footage you're seeing here today was captured on my LG B9, so that's a 4K 120Hz screen, and it's also being played in HDR, so hopefully YouTube is doing a good job of displaying this HDR content. This was really my first time trying to capture HDR gameplay footage using NVIDIA's gameplay capture tool and then export it from DaVinci Resolve, so hopefully everything worked out fine here for you. Now we'll jump through a couple levels so you can get an idea of the performance across the game, and I'll give my thoughts on some of the levels here as well. Starting off here, we have the mission where you're kind of in the hills in Mexico, I believe, or right around there, and you're going to fight the Mexican army actually because they're being paid off by some of the cartel. This mission was pretty fun, and overall I think the campaign's been pretty fun. I don't think it's the best, honestly. I kind of prefer the original Modern Warfare 2 campaign from what I've played so far. A lot of these levels are really small and linear. Quite a few of them were stealthy in the early levels as well. The original Modern Warfare 2 campaign just felt so cinematic and Hollywood-like. And this one, hopefully, maybe it'll get to that point, but honestly some of the stuff that happened there was more ridiculous, where I think with this game they're going for a little bit more of a grounded feeling. Now that's not to say that this game's really hardcore and realistic, and this ridiculous moment right here where you jump off a cliff into the water and then you swim through the water and shoot people with your gun while you're swimming is very ridiculous. Can you even imagine all that weight on you and being soaked and trying to swim and shoot out of the water at people shooting you from the land? No, obviously there's still really over-the-top Call of Duty moments, but that's what makes these games really amusing. This level was pretty fun, and I think the visuals on display here were very appealing. The whole game looks pretty realistic, honestly. The cutscenes that are more pre-rendered look really good and almost like a CGI movie, but I think they're done in-engine, but they're not rendered in real time. I was actually pretty surprised just in these early levels. A couple of them do feature this swimming and shooting quite prominently, but I think this is a new gameplay feature to the game that wasn't in Modern Warfare 2019. I only played a little bit of Black Ops 4, but I believe this was also a feature in that one as well. Speaking of stealthy levels and water levels, this one you swim around a lot and just take down people in stealth. Unfortunately, I kind of got the action going here pretty quick, but the performance here was one of the more demanding levels I saw overall. Still, I was north of 120 FPS for essentially the whole time, which is really nice for this display. If anything, if this was too demanding and I wasn't hitting 120 FPS, I would have just dropped DLSS down to probably balanced mode. I don't really like dropping below balanced, but with the RTX 4090, quality is honestly fine for basically everything at 4K that I've played so far, and a lot of the times you don't even need DLSS anymore for hitting that 120 Hz at 4K. Now here's a level that I've seen quite a bit on Twitter, so I definitely wanted to experience it myself. This is the Amsterdam level. This one's really slow at the start where you're basically just walking around and silently taking a few people out and then picks up a little bit at the end, but this is probably the shortest mission I've played overall so far. Now on the smartphone on Twitter, when I saw this, it definitely looked almost photorealistic. On the big screen still, it looks amazing, not quite photorealistic, but still very good visuals on display here, and you can see by our frame rates that we are doing very well for performance on this level as well. I definitely like to see ray tracing added to this game for things like reflections on the water, so that it doesn't just rely on screen space reflections, because you can definitely see artifacts with that in certain places. Now here's a pretty different level. This one you're doing air support for your troops that are trying to escape on the ground with a hostage. The performance in this level is probably the highest I've seen yet, which is kind of interesting because you are the furthest back, so you get the biggest view of the map here, but you're definitely a lot further away, so things can probably be rendered at a lot lower detail to save on performance here. It is pretty cool though, you can switch between thermal modes and shoot big missiles that take out complete buildings, so this is a fun one to play as well, and it was pretty interesting to see the performance here jump, about 50 to 60 FPS compared to a lot of the earlier levels we saw in first person mode. Alright, and finally here we have the first level being played without DLSS at all, so native resolution at max settings. And you can tell our frame rate is a bit lower than it was earlier, but still we're hitting really good frame rate numbers here, and I definitely find this acceptable. When I'm playing multiplayer on my display here, which is 3440 by 1440 ultra wide, I'm not going to be using DLSS at all for multiplayer, and I should definitely still be hitting 144 FPS, which is the frame rate cap of my monitor. This level was actually a lot of fun for this opening one, and the little opening before this too with Ghost and guiding a missile through the valley, I think set the kind of the mood of the game very well. But that's going to wrap up my coverage here right now. Let me know if you liked the video and if you thought it was pretty interesting to go through a couple of these levels with the RTX 4090 to see what kind of performance we'd get. I'm going to let this run out for a little bit longer so you can see more of this level without DLSS being played to see what the performance is like. I will be putting out a video pretty soon here about the Steam Deck and one of my favorite games on there that I really think everybody should pick up and play on there, regardless if you like JRPGs or not. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel and giving me a thumbs up on this one. Check out more of the content on the channel for PC gaming and Steam Deck stuff. But other than that, have a good one and enjoy the rest of the video.
Boss, building 2 secure.
Roger. Time to hit the crash site.
Got a video for signing here.
John's their hero.
They're gonna need a new hero.
Take matters in our own hands. At the time and place of our choosing. الانتقام هو خيارنا الوحيد.
You good, mate?
Who the fuck is it Alpha?
Aye. Now we can secure the crash site.
All Bravo, circle up outside. So, we're moving to the crash site to help the wounded. Rest of you, hold here and cover us. Raj.
Alpha 02, Bravo 07, building 2 secure. We're coming to you.
Alpha copies all. Expect contact. AQ's waiting for us.
Blue! Damn good to see you guys. We got 5 KIA, 1 wounded. It's just my gun. I'm low on ammo. Help me move him.
No time. They're here. Get your gun on that tree line.
Got movement. Gate! Shooters in the wall! You called it, LT. RPG! Fuck! Get your gun up! They're getting close. One.
We clear? For now. Stay sharp on that tree line.
They're still moving out there.
7-6, call for fire. I want close air on that tree line.
Raj, calling it in.
Dig in, lads. We're not done yet.
07, CAS is 3 minutes out.
Roger that. Air support's inbound.